Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So what on earth can we do in space? This is our next topic, as you can see behind me on the LED wall. Welcome, all of you who are here in person and all of you who are watching us online. This is the World Conservation Forum, for you who just joined the party. Our next and last speaker for today is founder and chairman of the New Space Industries, and also a space executive, and he will talk about his ideas and his vision regarding space and what opportunities we, humanity, or maybe we, Hungary, have there. So, please welcome István Sárhegyi.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me as a last presenter of this World Conversation Forum 2021. And I would like to talk about the new space era and what can we do as Hungarians in this new era of space and space industry. And also, why is it important here in this expo to talk about space? So shortly our agenda today and the agenda of this presentation. First, I would like to summarize the three main pillars of the new space era and why we are talking about new space and what does it mean. After that, I would like to shortly talk about the opportunities or new opportunities in the space industry regarding to the climate change, to the hunger of the world, and other new crises which we will have, or right now we have, at the 21st century and later on. And last but not least, I would like to talk about the Hungarian space sector and what are the opportunities for Hungary in this new era in the space industry, and what type of ecosystem we are working on, which is actually a private or a privately owned ecosystem. So first, the space race of the 21st century. There are three or four main pillars of new space. So what does it mean, or why do we have a new space race in the 21st century, or since the 2010, there are four main pillars. First, the revenue, and this is my next slide about. So we expect that in the near future, or until 2040, about 2040, the revenues from the space industry will be higher and higher, and it will reach almost $1 trillion per year globally. And this is because there will be new services in the space industry in the near future, like asteroid mining, space tourism, new satellite constellations on the low Earth orbit, like Starlink of SpaceX, and other type of new services. So this is why we expect that the revenues from the new type of services in the space industry will reach this huge amount of money. The second pillar is that the payload transport cost radically lower than the 1980s or the 90s. And it is because, and this is a very important thing, and this is why we are talking about SpaceX and Elon Musk, because there is an innovation at SpaceX. And the innovation is the reusable rockets, like the Falcon rocket, Falcon 9, or Falcon Heavy, or the new one, the Starship, which will be a fully reusable rocket. So not just the first stage, but the second stage of the rocket will be reusable. And actually, it can transport almost 100 people to occupy, for example, Mars or occupy Moon. And we can start our long life in these external planets or on the moon. But the main issue about reusable rockets is that the cost of transporting one kilogram of payload to the space is radically lower. And you can see by 2040, we will reach that 1 kilogram transportation to the space or into space will reach almost $100 per kilogram. So it's a huge innovation. And of course, if you have higher revenue expectations and then lower costs, it is economics 101 that you will have higher profit. So after this lesson, or economical lesson, we can understand why there is a privately owned or a private investors became new members of the space family, and why we are talking about space and new space like commercialization of space sector. So new space is about that there are new actors in the space sector. Yeah, we know the agencies like NASA, like ESA, the European Space Agency, Roscosmos, the Russian agency, the Chinese, etc. But there are new actors which are privately owned, like SpaceX, like Blue Origin by Jeff Bezos, like Virgin Galactic from Richard Branson. So, but it is not only about the American billionaires. As you can see, that in the last decade, the private investments are higher and higher by year, and right now there are several privately owned funds, private equity funds, venture capitals, which are financing startups, for example, or major companies which would like to invest or manufacturing to space. So this is a very exciting moment in the space sector, because we are not talking about the space race between states like the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the USA, but we are talking a space race between, of course, states like the USA, Russia, China, but beside of this, we are talking about private companies which have a race between themselves, and also they are, of course, competing the states. So, for example, SpaceX now has the power to compete with NASA, because the only American company or agency which can send people to the ISS, so the International Space Station, is right now SpaceX, not NASA. And this is really, really important. So this is why we are talking about privately owned space sector, but new space is not only about owning privately companies or owning privately innovation, but it is really important that still there is no space or space industry without government or without the states. And as we can see, right now, the US government spending more than is spent during the Apollo program. So, and why is that? Because space is a dual-use sector. So we have civil usage of space, but there is a military part of this sector. And right now, the states or the countries recognize that it is really important to have capabilities in the space, because, for example, China right now working on its space station, and it's only Chinese. After the ISS, America will have its own space station. But this is one thing. The main issue is that who will reach again the moon first, and who can build a little colony there and start mining, for example. Who will have the most effective satellite constellation, China or the US? And this is why they have, or they established space forces. It's not just a Trumpish funny thing that they have Space Force, the US. Because after the US, China has Space Force, France has Space Force, already Hungary has Space Force, and this is really important. So this is why we are talking about a new space era, because not only the private companies, but the states investing more and more year by year into the space sector. And this is really important. And beside of this economical situation, why is it important? So beside of the military things or the defense things, why we are talking about space sector? And of course, we can talk always about that we can really thank to the Apollo program that we have Teflon or we have special shoes or sunglasses, of course. And for example, I made the route here, or by car here to the expo with Waze. You know, Waze, sorry, it's Hungarian, but yeah, the Waze, or Google Maps. These are satellite improved or satellite-based services. So space sector is a part of our life every day right now. But beside of this, we have to talk about the 21st century and the connection with space sector. And it's that we have to say that space industry and the space infrastructure is a critical infrastructure right now in the 21st century. And why is that? Because in the 21st century, we have a lot of crises, like migration, like hunger, like climate change, etc. And to solve or COVID-19, for example. And to solve these crises in the 21st century, we need space, we need satellites, and we need data from satellites. Because, for example, when we have COVID-19, decision makers had to decide that what type of rules do they have to make during the pandemic. And actually, they needed data, for example, from satellites that people usually go out during the day or not. Do we need more strict rules, or we can make easier rules? And these are very, very important data or information for a decision maker. And this is why right now it is a very, very big question for decision makers to buy this information or data from a foreign country or a foreign company, or to have its own from its own satellite, for example. And this will be important a bit later, of course. But as you can see on this slide or the next slide, without, sorry, no, there is no next slide, sorry. So without satellite data, we can't solve climate change. We can't solve, so for example, Earth observation satellites, very useful against climate change. We can't solve COVID-19 pandemic without navigation satellites. We can't see the TV or we can't watch the television or make very safe data communication without geostationary satellites. And of course, for example, precision agriculture is a new service from the satellite operators who has Earth observation and geostationary satellites. They can provide a service for the agricultural companies to make precision agriculture. And it is important to solve the 21st century's hunger crisis, for example. So this is why we have to talk about space sector in the 21st century, because it is a critical infrastructure. And in the new space era, it is more and more critical to have the countries or a state's own space sector or own space ecosystem. And this is why right now me and my colleagues are working on this ecosystem in Hungary to provide this opportunity for Hungary and the Hungarian state, for example, but also for the Hungarian society to have these capabilities in the 21st century. Because without these capabilities, I think that our country is not independent. Because we have to buy the satellite data, because we won't be there when the decision makers will talk about the colonization of Mars or Moon, because we don't have our own space infrastructure and space capabilities. And this is why we are working on this, with this ecosystem. Through my holding company, Space Odysity, we have three pillars, me and my colleagues, which are very, very important for us. First is one of the flagship projects of Hungary, which is Kárpátiasat. We would like to build our own satellite, and not the little ones, not the cube satellites, but the geostationary satellite into orbit, to the geostationary orbit. And this is really important. These are huge satellites. These are communication satellites, this geostationary satellites. So they can provide you data, television, broadcasting, broadband, so internet services, and also, of course, any type of data communication. And it is really important, as I said, or as I told you, that in the 21st century, you need this critical infrastructure. So, of course, beside of mobile communication and fiber or fixed communication. And this is about Kárpátiasat. With my partners, 4IG and the state-owned Antenna Hungária, we established Kárpátiasat to build this geostationary satellite for Hungary till 2024. But beside of this, with 4IG, we are working on a bigger ecosystem in the telecommunication. As an advisor to the chairman, I'm also working with 4IG, which is an IT, a publicly listed company, which is an IT integrator and also, right now, a telecommunication holding company, or it will be, through its acquisitions. And one of the acquisitions is, for me, one of the most important, which is Spacecom. This is Amos by Spacecom. It's a publicly listed Israeli company which has already 4 geostationary satellites. And right now we are in an acquisition to get the 51% of this company. After that, 4IG will be the majority shareholder of this company. And then it can make more possible to build the Kárpátiasat satellite. So it will make it stronger, the Hungarian satellite project. And of course, as I show you, there is HDT, which is Hungaro Digital, which is the ground station and the ground communicator of geostationary satellites. So this is one pillar of our ecosystem. But there is 2 other pillars. One is REMRED. REMRED Ltd is a common or a joint venture company with the Energy Research Institute, which is a state-owned institute. And as you can see, for me personally, it is really important to to cooperate with the Hungarian state. Because as I told you, through our investments, we would like to invite the Hungarian state to be part of the privately owned Hungarian ecosystem, space ecosystem. And it is really important for us because, for example, SpaceX, and you know, everybody talking about SpaceX and Elon Musk, that it is a privately owned, it is independent, it is really the next big Google or Facebook. Yes, but right now SpaceX spending the NASA budget and the Pentagon's budget. And of course, it is state money. So we are more honest than the SpaceX. This is why we would like to have the Hungarian state as a shareholder of our companies, like Carpathia, so through Antenna Hungaria, or Remred through Energy Research Institute. It is really important for us because, as I told you, and this is my vision and also my philosophy, that there is no space sector without states. And you know, we are very honest and we would like to invite them in our investments. So, for example, Remred, it is a big vision for us, for my colleagues at Remred, to be the biggest Hungarian space manufacturing company. Right now, Remred is a space manufacturing company in the area of space dosimetry and space weather, and also providing testing facilities for other companies like Thales, like Airbus, and of course other Hungarian space companies. And right now with Remred we have huge plans for the future, of course. And we hope that if anybody would like to be an engineer, a space engineer, will come to us, because we have HR problems, of course, because human resource is always the biggest problem for these type of companies. And this is why, for us, it is really important to have cooperation with educational institutes. So, for example, with Remred, we have an agreement with the University of Dunaújváros to make or to educate more engineers for the future, space engineers, of course. But hopefully we will see that, for example, BME, which is the biggest engineering university in Hungary, will host an MA program for space engineers. These are very good initiatives on the educational side. And it is really, really important because we are thinking in an ecosystem. And there are three parts in this ecosystem also. One is the space industry, one is space research, and the third one is education. And education is the most important because the future depends on education, of course. So with Remred, we are investing in education, also in education, to be bigger and bigger and be the biggest Hungarian space company in the near future, and also to be a very, very big company for the CE, so the Central Eastern European region. And the third part of our ecosystem is Herius Capital, which is a very exciting project for us. Herius Capital is a fund management company, and we are managing Hungary's first private equity fund of space, or related to space or aerospace. We would like to invest in the CE region through capital investments, like a private equity fund, to provide more money and smart money to mature companies. So, for example, if there is an automotive supplier in Hungary, for example, we would like to give them more money and more opportunity and connections to the global space sector to be part of the space sector through their manufacturing facilities. Because to build or to be a supplier to the automobile sector, it is almost the same to be a supplier to the space sector. You only need higher quality, for example. But this is what our fund provides these companies. So this is Herius Capital. And we also have a lot of other stuff, as I said, through education, through incubation. And firstly, because I was talking about Herius Capital, I would like to highlight Design Terminal, which started Space Terminal in Hungary. And it is a really, really important thing, because we are not just talking about huge companies, and we are not just talking about billionaires like Elon Musk, like Richard Branson, like Jeff Bezos. No, we are talking about CMEs, so small and medium enterprises, and also startups. And it is really important that Design Terminal has a contract with ESA, which is the European Space Agency, and they started a new opportunity for young entrepreneurs and young engineers called Space Terminal, which is the ESA Business Incubation Center, to incubate these space startups and provide them a lot of smart money, for example, 50,000 euros, as I know. And beside of money, of course, business planning and everything which is an incubation program. So it is really important for us as a fund management, like Herius Capital, that we will have a very, very good pool, and there will be an extraordinary opportunity for Hungary and the Hungarian startups or other startups which will come to Space Terminal. Because I think in Europe I think we will be the only country in Europe who will have this type of capital market in the space industry, that we will have a space incubation program through Design Terminal or Space Terminal. And after that, they don't have to find new opportunities somewhere, because there will be the privately owned private equity fund, which can make them a seed or after a seed investment in their companies. So there is a future for these little startups. So this is one main thing which I wanted to add. And of course, we have a lot of other stuff in education and incubation through FIVOS, or I can highlight Joós, which is a lawyer colleague or a lawyer educational program. And of course, we have the law school of Page University, where I teach space law and space policy. And beside of this, I wanted to talk a little more, and I think I don't have more time, about SpaceBuzz, which is very important for us, which is a foundation for children between 10 and 12 years old, to give them a 12-hour education about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. And after that, they will have VR opportunity to experience the overview effect in space, which the astronauts have after they are, I don't know, they are reaching ISS, and they're looking back to Earth, and they have this overview effect experience that we are very little, we are in this universe, so we have to save the world. So actually, I think this was all what I wanted to talk to you. And to summarize it, it is really important to understand that in the 21st century, there is a new space era. The space industry is a critical infrastructure, and this is why we have to talk about it in Hungary, and we have to work about it and make this ecosystem live through education, through space research, and through space industry. So I just wanted to tell you, because it is online, I think, and right now I'm presenting in English, so my friends at International Space University can understand it, that the world has to brace itself because Hungary is coming to space. So it is really important for us, and we are coming. Thank you very much.